Hello and welcome to Story Proof. My name is Brendon, and I'm here alone today. We weren't able to get together, Bradley and I, to record our planned full episode for this week, but we will be back at full capacity. But today I wanted to talk about something that's kind of affected everything that we see movie-wise over the last 50 years, and that is kind of the basis of the current studio system in regards to um, blockbusters and tentpole movies. And what got me thinking about this was kind of the current discourse that's going on fairly consistently in regards to originality in movies and these ongoing franchise movies, everything else in between. Obviously, as I record this, we just had Superman come out from the DC universe. Here in the next week, we're getting the release of the next Marvel movie, Fantastic Four: First Steps. And so these are just a couple in a long, long line of what we term blockbuster or tentpole movies that have dominated Hollywood for basically about 50 years. The first blockbuster, quote unquote, that we generally think of as the start of this current system was Jaws. It was released in summer of 1975, and there were just crowds going around the block trying to get in to see the movie. It made money hand over fist for a couple of years. It was the highest grossing film of all time, primarily because it was new. It had the word of mouth aspect to it that really worked out for it. It gave some people something different. Also offered a bit of a merchandising aspect to it, but that aspect didn't really come about until 2 years later when Star Wars premiered in May of 1977. Because Star Wars revolutionized the game. It made ridiculous amounts of money at the box office. People were going 2, 3, 4 times to go see it. And then, of course, we all know about the merchandising rights that came along with it. So, and that just went through the roof. And that started Hollywood on this current path of, okay, we got high quality movies that have broad appeal to the audience that can make this much money. So we need to start producing more of these. And the more of these that we make, the more money we make, it gives us the better opportunity to then make more of the smaller films that people don't typically go to see as much in theaters underneath it. So Star Wars and Jaws really started this idea of what we call the tentpole movie, which is that you have this 1 or 2 movies a year that you release, typically in summer or maybe in early fall, that appeal to the broadest audience possible, appeal to everybody in the sense that they will want to go see it, their kids will want to go see it, and we can just make $1 billion, $2 billion on everything, so that then we can do our art films and our Oscar-worthy films and everything else that nobody will actually go to see, and we can give them these budgets, and then we don't have to care as much if they make their budget back or not. And that's largely been the way that Hollywood has operated for the better part of the last 50 some odd years. In regards to blockbusters, it's not even necessarily just like popular fiction, though. There can be those times, like we saw a couple years ago, where you had like the word of mouth and just like pop culture making a thing into a blockbuster, sort of like Oppenheimer and Barbie, where we had the Barbenheimer thing, where everybody was like, okay, these movies come out at the same time, we should make a double feature of it, even if they have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. But it worked, and people are going to play into it because there's the word of mouth, there's the big event movies. And in large part, this is why we kind of get that current sort of model for movies that we think of today, which is like, oh, why doesn't Hollywood do anything original? Why do we just get so many sequels and reboots of everything? Oh, we have this Marvel movie fatigue now where nobody really goes to see the movies in theaters, which the box office doesn't really bear out, but that's the common conception. Um, the problem with blockbusters and tentpole movies, as like brilliant as many of them have been over the years with Star Wars and everything else, they studios have become increasingly reliant on them to make their bottom lines work throughout the year on a yearly basis since that model started to become a huge thing. So the reason that we get, you know, two, three Marvel movies a year, the reason that we would get endless sequels to different movies, the reason that we see franchise fatigue now is because studios think, okay, that IP made such a profit back then on that first movie, on that second movie. It continues to make a profit, so we can still use this to help make back our budgets. And then we can make our smaller stuff that nobody sees. I'm not going to pretend to be as clued into like the box office numbers and everything else as a lot of other people who have podcasts and talk about that sort of thing do. I don't follow it that well. Numbers aren't my thing. Like, it's not just about the movie profits, it's about what you can do with it too. The thing that made Jaws different, and the thing that really like kicked this off, was in the early days of Hollywood, the studios actually owned the theaters that they would play their movies in. So what would happen was they would get all the profit from that. It would basically be a revolving door, revolving door. There was a Supreme Court case that put an end to that practice because it was basically a monopoly on the movie industry. Like one studio was making all the profits for this one thing. And that's how we get the rise of independent theater chains and everything else. So then they have to start making a profit in conjunction with sharing the profits with the movie studios for the ability to screen the movie. But in the early days, what would happen was a movie would open in just a few theaters, and if it proved popular enough, then it would expand out to larger theater numbers. What happened with Jaws was the studio spent a lot of money on the marketing. You know, there's those famous ads where you have the guy with the deep voice, and then people just showed up for the theaters. But the thing about Jaws is they decided not to just do like one or two theaters here and there and then slowly expand it. They just put it out everywhere and made it available everywhere immediately, put it on hundreds of screens. And so that made it more accessible and made more people go and watch it. And it was just an immediate success. The same thing with Star Wars 2 years later. Was that the word of mouth around it? People lined up around the block like they did for Jaws to try to get in and see this thing. And then on top of that, you had the merchandising. And that there with Star Wars and the merchandising is what really revolutionized this whole thing. So one of the current issues with Hollywood today is we see this endless stream of remakes and sequels. Like just this year, we've got Superman, we've got Fantastic Four, as I said before. We just saw the Jurassic World. It's a standalone sequel, but I guess it's also maybe meant to be a reboot. I don't know. I haven't seen it, and I wasn't really clear on what it was supposed to be to begin with. It's still Jurassic World. Uh, Amongst other things, um, we saw Inside Out 2 in the Pixar and animation space, which is another sequel to a known IP that was very popular, very successful, and I liked Inside Out too. But it's just one of those. But then we see Pixar also released Elio this year. Uh, I don't know anything about the movie because I don't remember seeing any ads for it at all. Um, all reports are that it's good. It's just it's not made any box office, so now it's contributing to this idea of original movies don't make money, but Inside Out 2 made money because it's a known IP. Part of the problem we all fall into is that it's expensive to go see movies now. We all acknowledge this, and part of that problem is uh, movie theaters mostly make their money from the concessions, and they make the sessions most of the money that the most of the money that is made on tickets goes right back into the studios for the ability to screen the movies to begin with. So that's why movie prices are still high, but that's why concession prices tend to be so high, is because most of the money comes from those concessions. Uh, and obviously, it's a lot harder to go see movies right now. So Hollywood's reacting to that, and like less people are going to the movies, especially post COVID. We've not really seen many movies, even established IPs, make and break the $1 billion mark since COVID, um, because of a number of factors. But uh, some of it is due to the cost of going to movies. Some of it is because the studios have kind of bit themselves in the butt a little bit with the streaming services, um, because now people's viewing habits are changing because of streaming services. They know that that movie's going to be on the Disney Pluses and the Peacocks and the Paramount Pluses within the next like 3 or 4 weeks. So why go spend money to go see the movie when I can just see it on the streaming service that I already paid for? Um, I don't agree with that argument because I'm one of those people who thinks that seeing a movie in theaters is, the experience in and of itself. You get the darkened room, you get the surround sound, you get the large screen projected in front of you. Like, it's the experience that you're paying for me in that respect. And that's why I still love going to the movies, and I always will. I don't think that we are anywhere near like the death of movie theaters when it comes to that. I think it's just that there needs to be a new balance struck between these streaming services and these companies and their ambitions when it comes to blockbusters. Um, as long as this current studio system is in place, we're going to keep seeing these blockbusters. I know we've still got there's 43 movies currently within the Marvel franchise. Uh, We're about to see Fantastic Four, and then that's going to set up there's still a new Spider-Man film in the works. There's 2 more Avengers films planned so far, along with a few more standalones. So we're still going to see these tentpoles. I'm sure here in a year or two they'll once again try to reboot Jurassic Park and Jurassic World for something. I know I've seen rumors that they are planning to reboot the Indiana Jones franchise with a new actor to play Indy, because Harrison Ford is done playing his version of Indy. I think that's a mistake. I think that's one of those that need to just kind of stay where it's at, and then you can continue the stories through like video games and comic books and even TV shows if you wanted, I guess. I don't know. Like they did earlier this year with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I haven't finished the game, but I enjoyed it immensely so far, and it really felt like another Indiana Jones experience. And you can do that much easier that way than you can by trying to recreate the same magic with a different actor, a different cast, a different crew. There's always constant talks about rebooting some franchises that were very popular and then just haven't with the modern technology that we have. So some people talk about trying to do a reboot of Back to the Future. I don't think that could work in the same way. Would it be an IP that people would go see just to see what's going on? Yeah. But I don't think it would work in the same way. We're seeing that kind of now with the Disney live-action, quote-unquote, movies, where they're remaking their classic animated films to try to appeal to a more modern audience, but also, especially when they're doing like the Renaissance films like The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, they're trying to get the people who are adults now, were kids then, have that nostalgia for it, want to share that with their own kids, so they think that they're going to come to the theater, spend money, and everything else. But at the same time, we're not keeping the same like quality. I liked the Jungle Book one. I thought the Jungle Book one was pretty good. Honestly, the Cinderella one wasn't too bad. I haven't seen Aladdin or Snow White or Little Mermaid, so I can't speak to those. But all of this is to say that all of this in this like ramble about blockbusters and the way that they kind of keep Hollywood in this perpetual state of remake, reboot, and just okay, we've got this tentpole movie. The one refreshing thing that happened this year was Sinners, because it was a new concept from a studio that just had that word of mouth, had that excitement around it, that everybody was like, okay, you got to go see Sinners. I saw Sinners. It was great. And now they're planning to, it looks like, make a franchise out of it, which I'm interested to see what that's going to look like. I just hope at the same time we don't lose that initial like touch and artistry that was involved in that one as well, because it was so good and so fresh and so original. Yeah, at the risk of droning on and on, that was just sort of the brief ramble, because I've been thinking about Tentpoles and Blockbusters lately, and then there's the discourse online about like what's good for cinema, what's bad for cinema, and everything else. So I just wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about that. We'll be back next time with a movie in a way to build upon this. And until then, I'm Brendon, and this has been Storyproof.